Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Ssemakadde Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kizza Besigye every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digital.
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here every Friday from midday to 2 p.m. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digital TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good afternoon, Uganda. It's a Friday, the 4th day of October. The year is 2024. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga, and of course, every Friday we come here with the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, where we touch base on some of the issues that have been happening in the country. We've not had Doctor for a while, and of course, we have a lot of issues that have been happening in the country. Uganda is one country where literally every day there is something new that Ugandans are talking about, something that is trending, maybe something that is funny, or maybe some people who have been violated. So we are an eventful country, and of course a lot of things have been happening in this particular time. But of course I'd love to welcome you, each and every one of you who's watching us today. Thank you so much for tuning in. A special shout outs to the people who watch us in the diaspora. Thank you so much for whatever you do. Thank you for wanting to keep tabs in your country, because at the end of the day, your contribution is making Uganda better is something that we do not take lightly. I continue to tell people that the people in diaspora send remittances to Uganda here. They send money to their loved ones. In fact, a lot of money that we get in our economy is got from the people in the diaspora. So if you're watching us from Dubai, Middle East, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, thank you so much for tuning in. People who are watching us from the United States of America, I know a gentleman called Kamoga Franklin Gooding. You're always watching us. Thank you so much for watching. And everybody who's watching us, I know Mark Mugaga, you are in Canada. You're also watching this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I've told you, it's the Interface Show. We're streaming live on our social media platforms at Digitalk TV, at the Alternative Uganda. You can find us there. We are also on YouTube, by the way. These days we are streaming both on Facebook but also on YouTube. So in case you have any network issues, especially on Facebook, which is still under closure in Uganda today, you can actually use YouTube alternatively at the Alternative Uganda or at Digitalk TV on YouTube. You'll be able to see this particular feed without any buffering or interruptions. I also request you to send us some of your comments. Any question that you have that you want Dr. Kizza Besigye to answer, he'll be in position to answer all those particular questions and issues that you want him to talk about. Without any further wastage of any more time, allow me welcome retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. Sir, you're welcome, and it's always a privilege to have you on the interface.
Thank you very much, Edgar, and very good afternoon to all the digital audience, wherever you are joining us from today. It's always a great pleasure to be here on Friday. I profusely apologize for my absence in the last 2 or 3 weeks because I had travel abroad, which kept me away for that time. But I'm glad to be back, and I hope you've been well during this time of absence. As Edgar says, Uganda is a very fast-moving country in all respects, and so my sympathy goes to those that have been having various personal challenges and tragedies. I'm always, completely shocked when I see the kind of carnage that continues in our country, the numbers of people that die on our roads. And of course, they add on to those that are having terrible times in our dysfunctional health units. So my sympathy to all of you who are going through tough times at a personal level, and those who are having good times and celebrating birthdays and so on. I also extend my greetings and felicitations to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muhozi Owen, you're watching from Kansanga. Thank you so much for watching. Okwaimungu Roni, you're watching from Nebi District. Thank you so much for watching. Beinom Gisha Alex, you're also watching from Ishaka Bushenyi. Now, what I request you is to just continue sending this video, share it with as many people as you can so that they can join this conversation. Doctor, how are you? I saw you in New York and you had a bandage somewhere on your hand. And look how the Lord Mayor, shared with the world how you were recovering. So we wanted to first start on that note. Are you okay, sir?
Yes, I think, when someone shared a picture of me with a bandaged hand, it seems to have triggered a lot of interest. But it was not a serious matter. I was, being communicated. I've had an injury of my right hand since 2011, when some bones here were broken by a rubber bullet in an incident on Kasangati Road. That time when I spent some time in a plaster cast. So the healing that took place created problems for 3 fingers in the middle here, which were increasingly becoming, crippled. So an operation was done to release the ligaments that were trapped in those scars. And yeah, so it was a hand operation that went well. I had a review last Monday, just before I came back, and the doctors were satisfied that it's well, and I only have to go through the usual rehabilitation exercises, massages, and so on. But otherwise, I have a fair use of my hand already. Okay. Yeah, but I'm grateful to all those who sent messages of sympathy and prayers for quick recovery. I, of course, read about sad passing of Mr. Onapito,
Yes.
who is, of course, yet to be interred. And I'd like to use this opportunity to send my heartfelt condolences to the family, to the relatives, to the media fraternity with whom he worked, and the corporate bodies in which he served. Onapito was truly a gentleman in every respect. He was thoughtful in what he did and said, and was by all measures a very reasonable and useful Ugandan. And as you know, I'm not very complimenting to many of our elites, especially those that have been, having a stint in the politics. Napito was in the parliament.
Yes.
And he acquitted himself quite well. Even if you disagreed with him, you would see that he's making his point, he's taking his side with reason. He was, and he would concede where he would see that, you have a point that he hadn't seen. So it's a big loss, and truly we are sad that, good people tend to be the ones that bow out first, because he was still a very, young person. And the troublesome ones, who cause a lot of pain to others and so on, seem to hang on to their lives much longer. So yeah, my condolences to the family, and similarly to all those that have indeed lost dear ones. I only captured Onapito's because of his prominence, quite obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you. Let's delve into the conversation. I'll just start from KCCA, rather on the issue of Kitezi, the landfill. So President Museveni came out to dismiss some individuals. Dorothy Kiswaka, the executive director, is no more. David Luyimbas, the deputy, is also no more. Daniel Okello, the director of public health, is also no longer serving with KCCA. But according to your Twitter, you don't feel satisfied with this decision. Why is that this has not satisfied you?
Well, I don't think it is just me. I think it is the country. I think it's especially all those who reside in the capital city, Kampala, who know the kind of mess that Kampala is, all round the mess.
Yes.
Whether it's the transportation, whether it's the health situation in the city, whether it's the regulations that one has to go through to achieve any small thing that is done in the city. It's a complete mess. And in this particular respect, we are used to that mess more or less. We live, it has become part of our normal. The filth, the terrible roads, the dysfunctionality of the city has become, the markets, the way they are run, it has become the darkness, at night, that you don't find lighting in the city. And so what cities should do, the security, of the city, people who go about their businesses in the city, and the insecurity within the city, we have become used to this. But I think what triggered the latest discussion about Kampala was the horrific demise of yet, I think, an established number of people who perished being buried by garbage in Kitezi. You know, that is what shocked everybody, that things can get much worse. And of course, following that, then there was the lack of cleaning Kampala because they had nowhere to take the garbage. So garbage was stuck now everywhere around the city, especially around markets. And, you know, the stench in the city started engulfing every part, and the flies and everything that goes with all that. So, and of course, not to forget the, you know, regular floods that that go along with that. You know, once you have rotting matter everywhere, and you have floods that then distribute all this rot all over the city, you know, the health hazard cannot be, you know, imagined that people live with. So that was the trigger for the latest interest in Kampala. And, you know, ordinarily, if people die in such a magnitude and die in such a horrific way, occasioned by something that was known that was going to happen, you know, one would have expected and you know, I have been saying all along that my disappointment cannot be to Museveni and his junta. No, because we don't, anybody who is reasonable and lives in this country cannot, up to this time, be expecting Mr. Museveni to do anything better. He can't. And if you think Museveni can do better than he has done, then you are the problem, you see. So, even now, around the Kitezi tragedy, my deepest disappointment is towards my fellow countrymen. You know, that even that horror, that those deaths cannot prompt all of us to rise up and say, no, enough is enough. Because worse will keep on coming.
One would say it's just an accident.
And we know that, you know, what should be able to stop this is not there. And we are not acting. So we are the problem for this country. Not the junta, not those who are in KCCA, not the Mr. Museveni and his rotting regime, because the whole regime is as rotten as Kitezi, you know. We all know that. It is that we are incapable up to now to push all this rot aside and try to make sense of our country again. Because look at Kitezi. First of all, I have, of course, been seeing people, I believe out of largely ignorance, saying the Lord Mayor, Salongwerias Lukwago, should account for the tragedy. And I say out of ignorance because the role the Lord Mayor has and his council at KCCA is very minuscule regarding the running of the city. They were limited to just discussing policy matters, and that is it. They are not anywhere associated with execution, putting into action anything that happens in the city. They don't have that mandate. They don't have that role. So all actions in the city are the responsibility of Mr. Museveni and his appointees.
Okay, at least he has sacked these appointees. I want to interrupt you on the issue of Lord Mayor Lukwago. Then why is he still in the office?
So
when he knows he does not have power. And
no,
because for us we vote him.
I am saying
it is him we are looking at.
No, because you see, if you must vote somebody knowing what power is in the vote that you are casting. You voted knowing that his power is limited to only commenting on policy issues. So even at the time of voting, if you voted thinking he was going to have executive power, then you are the problem again. Because it was very clear, at least in the last election. Maybe in the very first election when he was elected, things may not have been clear. But by the last election, the role left for the Lord Mayor had already been circumscribed and left as very small. If you may recall, Mr. Museveni himself publicly rejoicing that the Lord Mayor has been trimmed to size. So you were electing somebody you knew had very limited power. In fact, almost no power, except
ceremonial
the power.
power.
Yes.
That's what Jennifer Musisi said, former KCCA.
Yes. So that's what you elected. And you cannot demand from that what it was not supposed to do.
So let's just let him get his salary and money and enjoy the privileges.
No, it's not just enjoying the privileges.
He is enjoying privileges.
Yes, he does.
For doing nothing, literally.
But for the role for which you elected him, the very limited role that you elected him to do. So it's, in other words, he cannot be disappointing you because he was elected for that very limited role.
Okay.
It was not that there was a misunderstanding, he had a wider role which he has not served, no.
Okay, the people Museveni has appointed, he has sacked them. Why don't you feel satisfied up to now?
So, the person responsible, who has been responsible for the management of Kampala City,
yes, sir,
is Mr. Museveni directly and those he directly appoints. And he appoints very many people.
Yes.
He has appointed 2 ministers to take charge of Kampala.
Yes.
He has appointed 6 resident commissioners.
City commissioners, yes.
Directly appointed by him.
Very true.
To take charge of Kampala. He has appointed the executive director of Kampala. Executive director of Kampala. Directly appointed by the president and responsible to him. And his deputies and his directors are directly appointed by Mr. Museveni.
That's very true.
Now, the rotting, as I have pointed out, has been insidious, has been going on for all this time, under his watch. That's why I'm saying that the anger, the people who should be responding to this are ourselves, telling this failed team, Mr. Museveni and all his appointees, to say, nonsense, get out.
Yes.
You are the problem. So he cannot claim, after death of more than 50 people, that I am sacking these people. There was a report made 9 years ago.
Yes.
That clearly pointed out the danger of Kitezi.
Exactly.
Impending danger. 9 years ago. All these people, Mr. Museveni and all his appointees, got the report did completely nothing. About a month before this happened, actually the Lord Mayor was at Kitezi, and he made a
earlier this year,
he made a very loud alarm of the impending day.
He did, that's true.
Nothing happened. So, this was not an accident. It was the most dramatic effect of, people who abuse and neglect their responsibility. That culminated in the death. So they were murdered. These people were murdered by those who were supposed to protect them. In other words, there is criminal liability here.
Yes.
That criminal liability, the person who takes the biggest responsibility for it is the head, Mr. Museveni.
Okay. He already delegated the CID to start looking into these individuals.
You see, there is no way CID can investigate Mr. Museveni, because he's the criminal in this. He's the one who committed the crime.
Oh, he's the president.
Yes. He's the one who committed the crime of murdering more than 50 people. He's the one. And those he has chosen to work with. As I have told you, he has known that these people are going to be buried by garbage for 9 years. He has known, done nothing. On top, money is appropriated, billions every year to manage just Kitezi. 4 billion, I understand, 4.1 billion that has been going to manage Kitezi. Not, of course, being stolen. Our money. So, on the question of Kitezi, really, it's simply not acceptable to start discussing who is dismissing who. All these people, the government should simply get out of office. And it will not get out of office unless Ugandans wake up and say enough is enough. This is what it takes. So for me, I'm not looking for Mr. Museveni. I'm not looking for Chisaka and all these, characters that have been hanging around. I am looking for Ugandans to say no.
Okay, let me
because if they don't, more is going to cover them.
Okay, Laysap is saying, Doctor, what's your view about Museveni's fire KCCA, ED and friends, which has answered, but they continue to say, don't you think he did a good job? Let's give Museveni his flowers when he deserves them.
Which job?
Sacking these individuals.
He did a good job to bury 50 people with garbage. That's the good job he did.
Maybe lastly on this issue, I want you to...
Because I've told you, he had known, himself had known,
but he
had a report that these people are going to be buried 9 years
Doctor, he himself said that he never even knew that people stay in that area.
Who?
Mr. Museveni.
That is even...
He says he did not know that people stay around that stench, that area. He does not think
so. He did not read the report that was given to him.
Maybe that's what it means.
So that's precisely. So that's why we should thank him for not reading reports that concern the people of Uganda and that result in the death of so many people. You see, that's my frustration. That there is that fellow asking that we should thank Museveni must be a Ugandan. You know?
They are Ugandan.
He must be the one who is paying taxes that were stolen in Kitezi every year. Billions of that gentleman, I don't know whether he's a man or a woman.
We are also not sure.
You know? So his money was abused. people, his fellow countrymen, were buried by garbage, not by accident, by criminal negligence
Yes,
of
yes.
Mr. Museveni and his appointees. Now he says we should thank. Can you imagine the kind of, the frustration?
Okay, Doctor, thank you. 31 minutes past 12 p.m. You're watching The Interface with Dr. Kizza Besigye. Finally, by the way, the People's Front for Transition, process for registration of the People's Front for Freedom, PPF, is soon hitting the road. But before you even delve into that conversation, Doctor wanted us to do you have anything to conclude on the issue of KCCA, or we can just enter the issue of the Uganda Law Society?
Well, you see, the issue of KCCA, as I have said, it's very painful. And the pain is directed at ourselves, the Ugandans, and how insensitive we are about our governance and our plight, how we end up where we are, in stench, in flooded city, flooded with garbage, with rotting material, in roads that are full of potholes in Kampala. It's, I don't know whether Ugandans even visit the neighborhood. Just go to Kenya,
exactly.
Go to Dar es Salaam, go to, and even if you don't go to the developed,
US,
even if you don't go to the developed countries, can't you feel that your country has betrayed you?
Exactly.
That the way you live is not how other people live, and this is why I say, I really pray, and I have been talking to many other people that we should maybe simply now appeal to God to intervene in our matter, because the kind of foolishness that hangs around our country,
I think
people simply appearing to have no capacity to reason and to think and to know the consequences of their inaction is something that requires some God's intervention.
But Doctor, we are also not ready for a serious government as a serious people, because we are not actually serious in nature as ourselves. Because if you find us throwing trash anywhere, we find us stealing the money that would have helped us. I think it's more of our issue. It's not more of the government, but
no,
the
it
entire people.
It is all governance. You see, that's why leadership has a critical role in any organized society.
But there is a culture. This society does not have a culture.
Yes. There is, of course, a culture that, as I have said,
laissez-faire.
As I have said,
Yes, Doctor.
leadership has a critical role, even in the development and enjoyment of culture. Leadership has a critical role. Without leadership, you are bound to end up in a hell lot of mess, and that's why. Indeed, people now think they can get away with all kinds of things,
One of the members of these, the ones that were sacked by Mr. Museveni, instead of talking about the issue, they started to react that they're attacking us. There are many people who are doing things. Why are you looking at us? And I'm just saying, but you are liable. You see the culture I'm talking about. Now he feels like their people are not being touched where they're touching
precisely. If everybody else is incompetent,
exactly.
Why are you singling?
That's what they were saying.
You see, this is why we need to, really clean the board. They are right. It starts from the top. As they say, the fish rots from the top. We simply must clear the whole rot and have a reset, a total reset of the country. And that's why we've been indeed arguing for a transition. There has to be a transition from this dysfunctionality to a more organized and structured state it will take a transitional process. But it starts with, first of all, recognizing that this dysfunctionality must simply be, taken out completely.
Okay.
And that's the role of citizens, that they must stand up and say, no, we need a new beginning. Let's stop this nonsense.
I laugh because the CDF said that no civilian is going to rule this country. It will either be a soldier or a policeman. So when you're talking about the civilians themselves, and I'm like,
you see, the CDF is precisely part of that dysfunctionality, part of that rot that must be put aside. Because ordinarily, there is no way you can have a chief of defense forces saying and acting as ours is. There is no way, In fact, I was, even while I was outside, I attended a meeting in which there were a number of our leaders from our neighboring countries. And they were horrified that, the chief of defense forces can publish officially these things and continue to be in office and, apparently not see so much protest coming up to say that, no, you can't do that from our office, because, the office he occupies is a public office, and a public office precisely means it's an office given to him by civilians.
Yes. Entrusted, not given.
Yes.
Whether entrusted
Yes,
to him.
by civilians. So, the fact that he can go to the office, do all kind and manner of things that he's doing and saying, and, attract no reaction, no response that stops that kind of thing continuing, speaks a lot to what I am talking about, that the failure is a failure of us as citizens. That's what allows people who are ostensibly occupying our offices, abusing them, using them against us, and we keep on, just lamenting, complaining, but not taking action to stop this.
Before you continue, sir, allow me just reiterate on what he has said, react to what you're raising, that he talks about issues, but nobody seems to react to him. One commented on one post he made and says, you're overposting and it's a sign of unprofessionalism. The tweeting general, Mr. Mhozi Kainerugaba, came out to say, I don't agree with this point of view. I never posted anything for the first 20 years of my life in the military. I started posting regularly only 7 years ago, after I was appointed the Special Presidential Advisor on Special Operations. In that position, if I'm not commenting on social, political, and economic issues, I am not doing my job. So as the special advisor to the president, it's absolutely professional for me to post all the time. The day he takes away that position from me, you will never see me on Twitter or X again.
Well, that is, of course, completely misdirected. You cannot, serve two masters at the same time. I don't know what his brief as an advisor is supposed to be. And again, that is partly why I'm talking about the dysfunctionality. Advisors of the president, and there are hundreds, have not been given, we have not been told, we who pay them, we have not been told what their mandate is, what it is they are
What is
supposed-
their JD?
Yes, what should we expect from them? We have not been told. And we should be told because we pay them. But we have not been told. Supposing that was part of his mandate to give or to direct who will succeed his father and who will not. Supposing that that was part of
The JD.
the terms of reference of the advisor
He can tell us who can be president and who
and
can.
who will not. If that was part of his mandate, then quite clearly he should never have been appointed CDF. Because the CDF, which is a constitutional office,
Yes, mandated by the constitution of
it's
this
a
country.
constitutional office,
Yes.
does not allow him to serve that other role. If that is what that role is supposed to do, he's supposed to do with it. The constitutional office doesn't allow him to service that role. So what he's simply really continuing to do is to hold all Ugandans in contempt. And he's right to hold us in contempt because we are contemptible, really. That's what we have up to now demonstrated, that Ugandans as Ugandans, we are totally contemptible. That's what Mr. Museveni has been doing himself. He has been, holding us in contempt every day of his nearly 40 years, holding us in contempt. And since we cannot acquit ourselves, since we are not able to do anything to take us out of that contempt, then we should we should simply acknowledge that we are simply a contemptible lot, and whoever wants to pee on us will pee on us, and that's what we have allowed ourselves to be. But otherwise, there is absolutely no way that a functioning country with a parliament that is supposed to oversee the executive would allow a serving officer, later on the chief of defense forces,
Yes.
the head of the defense forces, to make such outrageous utterances officially and not be sanctioned. It simply talks to, first of all, having no institutions. We simply don't have institutions. You cannot talk about having a parliament in that kind of a situation. We simply have no, people that should hold all those who violate the law to account. Criminal justice system, zero.
We can say that at least maybe he's saying things in the country here, maybe you can hide. But right now, as I'm reading, he's actually also now attacking the US government. In one of his recent posts, he accused the US government of undermining Uganda. He used the word, undermining the Ugandan government. And he has been reiterating, he's talked about issues of...
Where you see, for me, I consider that a less offense
Wow.
than undermining the people of Uganda.
Themselves.
Yes. And that's what, he's not only undermining, he's peeing on us. And so, really, we must simply either wake up and take our responsibility as citizens seriously, or we accept the trajectory, the path of extinction. We shall simply phase out as a useless people. We shall phase out. We cannot be good to live in this country, and we will not.
And it sounds really sad when you say things like that.
But that's the reality, and I am very, very serious about what I am saying. Either it's time we stand up and take our responsibility as citizens very seriously, in which case we demand all those who seek to govern us to do so with our will and account to us. And if we are not going to do that, then we would be submitting to be governed the way that indeed we are being governed.
But haven't we
and
tried,
being
Doctor?
covered with garbage and so on.
But we have tried.
And we shall phase out.
Do you understand? But we have actually tried. The issue you've talked about, we have tried to react. People have tried to protest. People have tried to talk about this issue.
Very clearly.
What more can we add?
You see, very clearly not enough. Because it's not enough just to talk. It's enough if you take action that ends what we are going through. The fact that we have failed to take the necessary actions to stop this nonsense that has been going on is what I am talking about. That to the extent that we continue to fail to do anything to stop this means we are permitting ourselves to simply be swept along with the floods that are going to the ocean.
Thank you so much. 47 minutes past 12 p.m. You're still watching The Interface. I have Julio, Hilk, Josh. You are live from Luemiaga, Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for watching. Akankwansa, Daniel, you're saying you're a long-time friend. You're watching from Namugongo in a place called Insao. It's always a pleasure having. Then Eric Semwanje, thank you so much for your. It's always a pleasure listening to Dr. KB's wisdom and shared knowledge. Thank you so much. Keep those messages coming through. We shall be reading them as we continue with the program. Doctor, I wanted us to also highlight on the issue of the Uganda Law Society as we enter the break. We can pick it from there. But Doctor, when you look at the Uganda Law Society, it has voted a new leader, a new president, Council Ssemakadde Isaac. The uniqueness about this election is that this person looks like an anti-establishment. He looks like a person who's bringing populism, who has been criticizing, who has been talking about the issues that are affecting this country. Do you think, in fact, before we enter that, what do you think about the election of Council Ssemakadde?
I was elated. I was excited that the legal fraternity, that the, lawyers and advocates and people who generally call themselves land friends had woken up to the need to shake up things. I think that's what the election of Ssemakadde really pronounced, that they are saying it can't be business as usual. It was a protest about how the law society, the judiciary, the whole question of the rule of law has been mismanaged or abused or compromised, and I am excited about it because lawyers have been some of the most conservative and status quo kind of thinking. In fact, that's why we still have, I think, the most prominent vestiges of colonialism resident with the lawyers.
Yes, sir.
That you have lawyers in courts with wigs and all kinds of garb that they, you know, that, you know, conservatism.
Yes, sir.
Most of those who put on those wigs don't even know the history of the wigs and how wigs came to be a part of the clothing of
the judges,
of judges and lawyers and so on. But so, you know, they have been conservative. They have been patronized by the state, largely because we have a very small private sector in Uganda where lawyers would be engaged in managing the transactions of private sector, you know, business takeovers, business conflicts, and so on. There are very few here. So most lawyers, to be successful in Uganda, will need to be on the good side of the government.
Exactly.
Because they live off the government in many ways. And so that's why, you know, I least expected the lawyers to stand up in protest the way they did this time. And from all fronts, the academia, the, you know, senior lawyers in town.
The old men were actually there.
You know, the young Turks, you know, so it was exciting. And possibly a pointer to the fact that this whole dysfunctionality of the country is reaching a tipping point. I think, to me, this is why I'm a bit excited about it. First of all, that, you know, this conservative lot to have been so made uncomfortable as to come out in a public protest must mean that things have reached a level where you know, more and more people are likely now to come into protest. Of course, we've been seeing, you know, the traders, business community, which again used to be very much, you know, aligned with the government and saying, you know, for them they are making money. We've seen them come up and protest and say all kinds of things. So we are now seeing the lawyers. And if the leadership, and I've told you leadership is critical. So if Ssemakadde and making them have to take decisions on very many critical public interest cases of human rights, of the rule of law, of lack of constitutionalism, and so on and so forth, I think it will be a major contribution in the whole process of resetting the country.
Okay, now let's go for a break. When we come back, I want to also look at generally where does he start from. He has hinted on that Ssemakadde can start on maybe advocating for rule of law. But generally, how does his advocacy also help us as the last Ugandan and also the lawyers themselves? So he's hinted on that. But also I want us to talk about the politics of populism. Why is it that we are seeing people like Ssemakadde, the people like Chagulanyis, people like, you know, different artists coming through the Joffrey tires? Why is it that we are not, the population is no longer looking at their leaders, the people in suits, as the alpha and omega? Why is it? Why are we seeing such a rise or a breed of people coming to take over Uganda? But also in the next hour, we shall hint on the police officers that were, that the U.S. government sanctioned, that were sanctioned by the United States government. What does this mean? How can we improve on that? And in case you have any more comments, questions, feel free to continue sending them. I've read a couple of them, but I'll be reading more as we come back from the short commercial break. This show is called The Interface Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga, and you're watching Digitalk TV. We are live on the Alternative Uganda, that is on Facebook, still the Alternative Uganda on YouTube, but also at Digitalk TV on Facebook and on YouTube. On X, we are at the Alternative Yuga, so you can also find us in all those various, engagements or sites. You can find us there. So let's go for a short commercial break. The interface continues.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Ssemakadde Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kizza Besigye every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, welcome to The Political Dice.
Empishi ebyobufuzi.
It's controversial,
Purely political.
well researched,
Accurate and global.
Oyagala bya parliament oba council.
Yes, State House oba ghetto.
Ani ayuga ku ground.
Ani gwe baabuze.
Okimanyi nga Dr. Kizza Besigye aleesa amaanyi.
Olwofadda bafutsoli abateeseemu obuvaazi.
Oba yo DP eri kuki?
Olwojeema.
Bano ba MKCG bo baddawa.
Abo bafuna CDF baamala tebabanja. Olwo baba ate bange bali kuki?
Abo bo akina kulabisa simanyanga posturing tebabiri bali mu structure building. Naye ate ono ye.
Ani oyo oba?
Ye ali kuki?
Oyo tumuleketa gamba apanyiga mawu.
Ebe ndabena birindira no ku The Political Dice ku The Alternative Digitalk nange teditenja ewamune.
Farida Bikobere
Buli wa Sunday
sawa 2.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that break. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. This is Digitalk TV, and every Friday we are always having Dr. Kizza Besigye starting from 12 to 2 p.m. So if you're just joining us, we had a conversation on what is happening in the country. Started with the KCCA incident. Then we've also been talking about the issue of Mr. Muhoozi Kainerugaba, in fact, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, continuing to make tweets that many people think are not, in line or are affecting Uganda in a negative light. So we are also now talking about the Uganda Law Society and the ascendance of Council Ssemakadde to the helm of this particular organization or this particular society. What does that mean to the politics of Uganda, especially when as Doctor said, that the conservatives, the lawyers, have not actually been in this particular process of advocating for a better Uganda directly, really. So if they have such a leader who's as charismatic as Ssemakadde and who is really inclined to oppose or really check the government, what does this mean? And when we went for a break, I also wanted to ask Doctor about the issue of populism, leaders such as the Ssemakaddes coming through, and what that means for Ugandans. And I think let's start on that particular issue. The issue of populism, such leaders, such breed of the Ssemakaddes, such style, why is it that we're seeing it cropping up literally every day in this country?
You see, populism as a concept has two elements.
Yes, sir.
One is positive, one is negative. The positive element of populism is the idea of projecting ordinary people's concerns and making them dominant for people to appreciate. And that is where, you know, people, you see, the whole idea of representation is that people see themselves in the leadership, that this is me.
Yes,
this is
I
me.
can resonate with this one.
Yes. And so, if people are, you know, poor, you know, dressed in a particular way, you know, they move or are transported in a particular way, they will relate to people who are like them. So if you are dressed, you know, as I was saying a little while earlier, in strange things, you know, wigs and gowns and so on, you know, they don't quite relate with you, you know?
Yes, yes.
On the other hand, if somebody is outwardly appearing like them, they are more likely to relate with them. That is in appearances. But more importantly, in terms of what affects them, you know, that indeed you are talking to their issues, the injustices that they suffer. Because the biggest challenge in managing political processes, all political processes, is trying to get people to have a fair say and a fair share of what is available for all. So if their voices are not coming through about what is affecting them, you know, take for example the city here in Kampala. The greatest majority of the people in the city are those people now who are referred to as hooligans, who have no job.
Who they call hooligans.
Yes, whom they call hooligans, but they are the owners, you know, they have no job.
The hooligans are the owners of the country.
And it's not their fault, you know, it is the fault of those who are actually calling them, who are isolating them, you know. These are hooligans, these are scum of our society, they don't want to get them to get closer. Yet, you know, governance is for them.
Yes.
So, the positive aspect of populism is the projection of what is treated as ordinary, lowly, and ignored, marginalized, because of indeed not having the muscle in society and projecting it, making it a mainstream issue. That is positive. And I think to that end, especially in countries where there is a lot of injustice, you know, it is necessary that those people get their voices, their advocates into the mainstream and have, you know, their issues projected. And that is, in that regard, what Ssemakadde was able to do, you know, to project the injustices in their profession and in the country, and how they are supposed to be responded to, you know, so that they become a mainstream issue.
Okay.
The negative aspect of populism, though, is where it is opportunistically applied to seek to use the divide between in society to cause hatred, and ill feeling and a divisionism within the society. So in other words, you pit one against the other in a way that propels you, but can lead to, first of all, a misrepresentation of the issues, but even more importantly, a conflict that can lead to a breach of peace and even
Anarchy.
even cause civil war.
Exactly. But one would say, isn't it there already, Doctor? Because we are in such a society already.
Yes. So, you know, the thing is, and that's why it's important how you manage to deal with injustices, project them, and manage them to have the influence to be resolved without leading to anarchic situations.
I get what you're
Because anarchy itself will create even more injustices.
Yes.
And even greater difficulty in resolving them.
Exactly.
You know, when you get a situation where the state completely collapses, then you are in a far more difficult situation to resolve. So this is why I say that one aspect is positive, the projection of injustices and the voices that have been marginalized, so that those injustices can be resolved.
Okay. Okay. As you conclude.
But without creating the flux that causes a collapse of the state.
Antagonism. Let's avoid the antagonism.
Antagonism will be there, but the management of it, you know, can lead to the collapse of the state. And that's where, you know, care and a bit of skill is necessary in managing that kind of a transition.
Especially on the side of let me say, the descendants, because it's already happening here, Doctor. You have an education where someone, as you continue to say, that a term, a year is paid $10,000, but there's another one who's paying $20,000 per term. And these people are all growing in the same community. They are all growing up. And I don't believe that these people are the same, because there is a feeling that these people have nots, but people are just quiet. But let's delve into the last bit of this particular conversation. Where does Council Ssemakadde start from? You have always wanted the elites to join such causes. And according to the voice that these people have rallied together behind Ssemakadde, one would say they are agreeing that there are problems happening in the country. How do we use these elites in creating a better Uganda, especially in advocating for justice and change?
So I think two areas. First of all is within the mandate of the legal fraternity, which I was talking about, where I think a lot of reform can be advocated and possibly achieved. Reform in how the law and justice, they call it the JILOS, the justice, law and order sector, how it is managed. I think there are many reforms that can be undertaken, spearheaded by the Law Society, which can improve the whole environment that promotes the rule of law. You know, how courts function, how investigations or investigative processes are carried out. And for example, you know, we have these 36 people who were kidnapped from Kenya.
Yes.
Who are still in a magistrate's court.
Wow.
A magistrate's court that cannot
try them.
Where they cannot seek any remedies. So some of the reforms that are really long overdue is to change that. So that if you are charged of any offense, you appear before a court that has the power to try you. That then that court can ensure that the trial, right from the time that you have been charged, is being that the investigations and trial are being conducted in accordance with the constitutional requirements, which now you cannot achieve in a court which has no say about. So there are many reforms that are within the JILOS sector that the Law Society can spearhead the change of. Secondly, I think, you know, especially the judiciary, we have now a judiciary which, frankly, is a walking stick of Mr. Museveni, has no capacity of independence as an institution, partly as a result of not their own fault, but as a result of how they come to be. You know, you've seen that all the judges today in all the three courts, the High Court, Court of Appeal and Constitutional Court, the Supreme Court, all the judges, 100%, have been appointed by Mr. Museveni. And have been appointed in an environment already where he was embattled and needing the protection of the courts. So he has created the courts for his protection. And in that regard,
yes, sir,
we need a law society that can really bring them to account to the people of Uganda in a more in a stronger way than we have seen hitherto. Because again, you know, the civil society, that's the work of the civil society. The law society should expose, compare in all kinds of ways the judiciary to function as a judiciary. Even can create, some rewards for judicial officers who function in better ways than others. So it can take on an oversight of the judiciary that would be helpful to the country. So that's one role. But secondly, the law society, as part of the wider civil society, can and should coalesce to head the struggle that causes the transition we are talking about. Because what the biggest reform that is needed in the country is the reforming of power. Not of the law, not of the institutions, but of the management of state power. Now, the reform of management of state power is a matter that can only be reformed through struggle. And so the law society is an important element of the civil society, the wider civil society, that should spearhead the struggle for liberation of the state, so that the state can function outside the control of the family of Mr. Museveni. Because what we have now is family rule. And that's why maybe I should stop here to congratulate Counsel Gawaya Tegule, who has gone to court, knowing what the courts are, but he has gone there with his case saying there is family rule here, which is not allowed by the Constitution. And that family rule is something that the courts will not treat, is something that cannot be treated by elections. It is something that will be treated by struggle. And that struggle should be spearheaded by the civil society of Uganda, the entire civil society, to mobilize the whole country to say we must have fundamental reforms and to undertake the transition that I am talking about. So the mission, the most important mission of Ssemakadde as a leader of Uganda Law Society should be to rally with the other activists in the civil society to fight for a transition from family military rule to popular sovereignty. That is the transition that our country urgently needs. It is the transition to popular sovereignty that will reconstruct the Constitution, that will reconstruct state institutions, that will build the spirit and form of constitutionalism under which the country gets governed. It is the transition through which we can reconcile the whole country, the societies within our country, the different nationalities within our country. So that is the mission that Ssemakadde, together with all the members of the law society, or at least the progressive ones, should undertake together with the wider civil society.
Okay. This gentleman is called Dr. Kizza Besigye, and of course we are always here with him every Friday from 12 to 2 p.m. I hope he doesn't be like the lead of the doctors who knelt to the president one time. But let's delve into another conversation. So, Doctor, the United States government has sanctioned some police officers following their gross human rights violations. Among these is Bob Kagarura. He was the then Wamala Regional Police Commander. Then there is Eli Womanya, who was the DPC for Mityana district. In fact, he was the senior commissioner, Uganda Police Force. Then Alex Mwine was the DPC for Mityana district. Then Hamdan Twesigye was also a deputy director in the CID. Doctor, what do you think about these sanctions of these individuals?
Well, I would like to thank and congratulate the United States government for continuing along the path of pinpointing, serial offenders of human rights in Uganda and sanctioning them. First of all, the basis, some people say, why do foreigners interfere in our local matters? So the basis is that human rights have no boundaries. They are universal. If you violate my right, you literally violate the rights of every human being. Or you are capable of violating the rights of every human being. And the idea is that every human being should be sympathetic to any other human being whose rights are being violated. That's how we shall have the human community harmoniously living together. That we must set standards for ourselves. So that's why we have what is called the Universal Declaration
of Human Rights.
Yes. So it is the responsibility of Ugandans to protest if the American government is violating the rights of any American. We must, like the other, what was his name? The fellow who was killed with the knee of the policeman.
It's Floyd. George Floyd.
Yes. We protested across the world, said that's unacceptable, So similarly, all governments of the world have a duty to protest wherever there is violation of right.
I hope they have learned, because many people have always been pulling that card that we don't comment on their issues. Why do they comment on our issues?
We have a duty to comment.
So that means it's on you.
Yes, we have a duty to comment on their issues, just as they have a duty to comment on ours. And of course, the United States is not any other government. It is also the most powerful government in the world.
That's true.
It is the superpower of the world. Well, now a bit contested, but it is the superpower. It is the biggest economy on earth. So if you are sanctioned by the biggest economy, the superpower, the greatest country, it's not something to take casually. Secondly, when countries, democratic states, take such action, usually other democratic states look at what they have done and similarly adopt it. In other words, they support whatever has been done that is in good order. So the sanction may be a United States sanction, but you'll find that it's also an EU sanction, the European Union, which is of course a close ally of the US. You'll find that it's also sanctioned. And by the way, those sanctions, of course, I have also heard some people saying, I don't expect to go to the US, I don't care what they say. But those sanctions, a little far removed from where we are as they may appear, actually will constrain those sanctioned in very many ways. First of all, they are not just sanctioned alone, even their families.
Yes. Yes.
So your child may not access education.
Will not.
May not access education in any of those countries.
Doctor, it's a will, not a will.
You may not do any business in any of those countries.
Yes.
So you'll find there are many things that come in your way. And the many opportunities that you will lose that you would otherwise have accessed because of the sanctions that you get.
Yes.
So, two things. First, I thank and congratulate the United States government for doing what all governments should do in respect of abusers of human rights. But secondly, the abuse of human rights which is here in the country, I think starts to get understood by others that I may in claiming that I am doing my duty, I am carrying out orders, that I don't have personal responsibility for what I do. So I think it is increasing the awareness amongst public officers here that they have public responsibility, that they are being watched by all kinds of people, and that they can be sanctioned individually. And it may now appear to be sanctioned there, but even here, after the government changes, because the government for whom they are violating rights may not charge them, but criminal liability never ends.
They have actually been promoted. Most of them.
Yes, they may be.
They are promoted.
They may be, but criminal liability doesn't end. So as soon as the Museveni junta goes, they can also be charged here. They must know that they have cases, because what these sanctions also help to do is to document.
Put it on record.
Yes, and document evidence. So there is a reservoir of evidence being compiled, and it's being compiled by many people. There are reports which are always being circulated by the Human Rights Watch, by Amnesty International, by Uganda Human Rights. There is this Huri Peck and Uganda Human Rights organizations. They are also, the Uganda Human Rights Commission is part of those which are using this. But so the apart from the international sanctions, the individuals who are used to perpetuate abuses here, I think are beginning to realize, or will be helped to realize, that they are putting themselves in trouble. If not now, at least in the future. And they will get into trouble. So people must start, if you are in a public office, you are a director of CID, you are, I don't know, these people who torture Ugandans in safe houses and so on, you think you are not being monitored. You are being monitored, and it will have negative consequences for you and those you love. So I think it's
We've actually seen that in the past.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing. Of course, all that helps us
Yes, sir.
to get closer to doing what we need to do. Because part of the reason Ugandans have not been able to, I think, stand up and say enough is enough is because of the consequences they expect from the regime.
Yes.
You'll be tortured, you'll be killed, you'll be arrested and detained for long, you'll be, humiliated in many ways. So if that can be reduced, I think it then gives more availability of people to stand up and assert their rights. So it's a very good thing. But at the end of the day, again, let's not be carried away to think that foreigners will liberate us. No. They may help us as they are doing through those kinds of actions, but the very role of liberating the country rests squarely on Ugandans. And the sooner...
they're just supporting.
Yes, it's supportive, very useful, supportive, but the ultimate responsibility of freeing ourselves, developing the country as it should, falls on us. And the sooner we take up that responsibility, the better.
Okay, 33 minutes past 1 p.m. I have Elizabeth Namutosi. You say we trust you, Papa Besigye. Hey, you are a papa.
Nice to hear you, Elizabeth.
Hey, so it's personal. I thought it was just Ugandans like to...
I know she's a freedom fighter out there also.
Ugandans like to affiliate with greatness. That's one thing I know. But Kapapula, a woman, say welcome back. Dr. Besigye, we thank God for your successful medical report. Rwamujema Paul Mitiana Namutamba, you say you cherish Doctor so much. Then there is Lulua Anthony, nice deliberations. Then, yes, Ramujemba Paul, you continue to say that you missed Doctor. But let me delve into the issue of the PPF, a political party that the Katonga function was trying to start off. But let me in fact read what the Electoral Commission, or how the Electoral Commission reacted. And my producer would be nice to also just put it up here. I'll start with one document that is dated 12th October. To all district authorities, recollection of signatures for members of People's Front for Freedom. Yeah, PFF, not PPF, PFF. This is to introduce to you promoters of People's Front for Freedom who wish to collect signatures in support of registration of their political party. The right is to form political parties and other political organizations is guaranteed under Article 72, subsection 1 of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda. Furthermore, Section 7 of the Political Parties and Organizations Act 2005 requires any promoter wishing to register a political party or organization to attach their application a list of the full names and addresses of at least 50 members of their political party or organization from each of at least 2/3 of all districts of Uganda. Please take cognizance of the fact that the Commission processes registration within 6 months in line with Section 7, subsection 11 of the Political Parties and Organizations Act. Accordingly, this signature collection exercise should be accomplished by 3rd January 2025. This is therefore to request you to render the promoters of People's Front for Freedom any possible assistance to enable them fulfill the requirements of the law. This is the Secretary Electoral Commission, Mulekwa R.J. Leonard. Then the other document says, still dated October 2nd, a reprocess for registration of the People's Front for Freedom. The above refers, and we make reference to yours dated 4th September 2024 in response to response dated 16th September 2024 in respect of the above captioned. As contained in our letter dated 4th September, you were advised to comply with the relevant provisions of the Political Parties and Organizations Act. The relevant submissions are, however, not attached to your responses. Please do note that whereas in your correspondence dated 16th September, you submitted your party identifying symbol, colors, and slogan, the application for registration of a political party under Section 7 of the Political Parties and Organization Acts of 2005 requires the same to be accompanied by 2 copies of the constitution of the political party, duly signed by the authorized officers. Then 2, a list of the full names and addresses of at least 50 members of the party organization, which forms at least 2/3 of the districts of each of the traditional geographical regions of Uganda listed in the 2nd schedule, being members ordinarily resident or registered as voters in the district. Then 3rd is a full description of the identifying symbols, slogans, and colors and political party or organizations, if any. Then D, the requisite registration fee of Uganda shillings 250,000. Please use the prescribed in Form 1 of the 3rd schedule. I think we can stop there. But still, this shows that they've given your organization or the political party that your members wanted to start a green light to start their political party. Doctor, what do you think about this?
Well, first of all, before I comment on that, I protest, Katonga being called a faction, because we are not a faction of anything.
Yes.
I have especially been challenging people in the media.
Yes, sir.
To your duty to establish facts as to why there is Katonga and who is a faction, who is not. There is one constitution of FDC, only one constitution, not 2 constitutions. And it should be fairly easy to understand who is constitutional and who is not.
But the court has sided with one. And
the court has not ruled on any of that.
Okay.
No. That matter remains in court. But it does not require even a court to understand who is acting according to the constitution and who is not.
According to that, it's the Katonga that is acting according to the constitution of the
Yes,
FDC.
and so somebody acting according to a constitution cannot be a faction.
It's the real political party.
And so I will leave my protest at that.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, the PFF, which is being proposed to be formed as a party, and as you know, in the decision of FDC Delegates Conference, 2 things were decided. 1, start a process that creates a party, a new party. 2, start a process that dissolves
The old party.
the old party. So those 2 processes are in motion, and the letter you read now informing the promoters of PFF to go ahead with the process of forming a party.
Yes, sir.
Is something that I think is important, but should have been done much earlier. Again, this goes back to the whole question of institutions. Institutions that we have today, including the Electoral Commission, should never have. There was absolutely no reason for the delay and even causing anxiety that it has been rejected, so that people start saying, oh, now what happens, All that is something that was uncalled for, that is not in good faith, is not something that speaks well of the Electoral Commission as an even-handed body that mediates political processes. And that is to be regretted, but not something unknown, that we are operating from the knowledge that all these institutions need to be, set aside. and we get a transition. So even as our members go to the Electoral Commission, it's not that they don't know what type of Electoral Commission they are going to. But one keeps on hoping that occupiers of those offices, being Ugandans, that they themselves may at some stage consider doing the right thing and moving with the right trend of things, with the flow that is going in the right direction.
Are they doing the right thing?
Yeah, so, but as I have said, the reason I'm making all this is what they did first.
Yes.
Which has had a serious, effect on the politics around the party.
Yes.
So that was, not necessary. It is good that as of second, from what I read in your letter, I hadn't, because I only came back here yesterday, I hadn't even had any opportunity to see that letter. I'm glad that they have now said, okay, go ahead. The second letter you read is what should have been given promptly way back, which now sets out what the law says should be presented to them for the party to be registered. And that will happen once the signatures have been collected. Then all that is needed for registration will be presented to the Electoral Commission, including the party constitution and other things that need to be registered by the Electoral Commission in registering a party. So I hope that will now proceed without any difficulty. Fortunately, in the case of PFF, as I have pointed out before, it's not like it's a new party being formed. The party is already there because the FDC, which is being dissolved, is already there. We have members in all districts of Uganda. We even have leaders in all districts of Uganda. So they will ditch one party and take on board another one.
But okay, yes, you say it's not new, it's old, but do we need political parties at a time like this?
So I will come to that. So first, I'm just talking about the process now. You asked me to comment on the process of registration. So the getting of 100 or more, the law requires 50 signatures from every district.
Yes.
In fact, of only 2/3 of the districts. So that's from about 100 or less than 100 districts. In our case, I'm sure we will get not just 50 signatures, but a hell lot more, that whatever number of signatures we want, we can get from all districts. We can get them even in 2 days because the infrastructure is already there. So I believe that whatever the Electoral Commission needs will be supplied to it at the earliest time. They have also indicated that they need at most 6 months to process once all the documentation has been given to them. It shouldn't really require 6 months. Again, completely unnecessary, because if you want to check signatures of people, these are registered voters. The Electoral Commission has an office. In every district they have an office. So again, if they wanted to check the authenticity of the people who are registering the party, they are able to do that even within 1 week, because every district has an Electoral Commission office that can confirm to them that.
Okay.
But that is their mandate. So I think what the proposers or those who are promoting the party will supply to them all that is needed. Now, having said that is the question of the role of parties.
And then maybe add on, what is this PFF going to do that the former FDC didn't do and the NUP is not doing?
Yes. So, two things. First of all, political parties are an essential part of any democratic society because political parties have two roles. The first one is to aggregate, to assemble views that are similar of how the country can best be developed. So, you know, you'll have people thinking in a particular way, associating together, and people thinking in a different way from those also associating together, and coherently proposing how, according to them, the country can best be developed. So that is why the whole constitutional question of freedom of association is important. That you associate with those whom you feel comfortable with their views that are being aggregated. So you cannot have people in a country think in one way of how the country will be developed. It is proper that they think in different ways and suggest these different ways to the ordinary Ugandans and persuade them which way is best for them to get developed. And that's why when people elect, they elect the different ways in which a country can be developed. So your question was, do you need a new party when there are other parties? There will be always different ways of associating that can crystallize in a new party at any point in time. You know, new ways come up and people associate around them in a political formation.
Yes, sir.
So, if you are comfortable with the other political formations that are already there, you join with them or you join them. If you are not and you think you are different, you create yours. So, I would like to believe that those, for example, who formed National Unity Platform looked at what was in FDC, did not feel that it captured their imagination and thought they should organize separately.
Okay.
So and you know, all you can do is respect their.
But you have common problems.
Respect. So I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I'm just talking. I told you, parties have two roles.
Yes, sir.
The first one is to aggregate thinking of people on how a country can be developed. And that goes into parties reducing all that in what is called the party policy platform. So you create a policy, a set of policies on which the country should be run. It's called the policy platform. So every party should have a policy platform they propose to the country. And as I have said, FDC has had that policy platform since the year 2005. So it is the same policy platform that continues. Our problems within FDC were not on the question of policy.
Yeah, yes,
no,
yes.
they
Yeah,
were
that's
not.
true.
And so the policy platform continues. Now, the second role of a political party is to build or groom leaders who can implement that platform if they are given mandate by the people to govern. So leadership development, developing leaders to develop, to implement a particular ideology or particular platform. So in other words, you develop ideological leaders that can implement your platform.
Okay.
This is why, you know, the debate which is going on in Parliament is should be very interesting to Ugandans. Those who are saying that all members of the opposition should elect their rope.
It has been tabled by
Yes, it's nonsensical because all those members of Parliament have different political platforms. You know, so you cannot elect a leader for all political platforms.
Because their ideologies are different.
Are different.
Okay.
That's why the official opposition, it's not leader of the official opposition.
It's leader of the opposition.
Not a leader of the whole opposition, but leader of the official opposition. So in Parliament, of the parties on the opposition, there is one which becomes the official opposition party. And it is the leader of that who is being talked about. So you cannot have a leader of the opposition party, of the official opposition party, elected by people who are not part of the party. It's ridiculous. It's that ridiculous. So two things for the parties: have a platform, have leaders for the platform. Now, regarding our own situation here, where there is no democracy anyway, and therefore, because the political parties are institutions of democratic systems, here there is no democratic system. So in other words, political parties, although they are being formed, they cannot function because the environment in which they are supposed to function doesn't exist.
Doctor, because we're going to continue with that conversation really, but I want you to first address this particular statement because time is running out. This gentleman is called Wantel Jamal. He is FDC Najana Nkumbi Vice President, Eastern Uganda. He says, if Besigye's wife and Salam Musumba's husband are always with Mr. Museveni, who are the collaborators? ? Politics is not like the way you see and group, the way you and group see. If Besigye can speak to people in State House and the wife meet Mr. Museveni, why can't you condemn that? In politics, if you use anger without reason, the next step will be to fight because of women. Doctor, I want you to just comment on this, but we're going to have this conversation. Even next week, I think we shall start from this particular discussion because we've not exhausted it well. But Doctor, just comment on this gentleman, Wantel Jamal.
You know, I have a lot of misgivings about commenting on things that are, you know, generally nonsensical. And I apologize for having to call it that, but that's what it is. You see, we are talking about political formations. You see,
he said, I think he's trying to allude to the way you have been able to register this particular political party.
Yes, no.
The process, I think.
No, he's talking about people meeting Museveni. And I think he's coming from the background of us accusing
them,
his people, the Naja people, whom he says now I hear he's calling himself a vice president or something, who got money from Museveni. that caused the trouble in which we are. You see, he's saying, but what in other words, what he's saying is that even people in Katonga have
the same thing we talked about the KCCA guys.
Yes, have networks with Museveni,
the system,
because the wife of Besigye meets Museveni, because Musumba meets
Musumba's
Museveni.
husband.
You see, for me, I have no problem with anybody meeting Museveni. Absolutely nothing. I haven't met him because no reason has arisen for me to meet him. In the last more than 20 years, I have not had any form of meeting with Mr. Museveni. But even if I met him, it would not cause any problem. The problem comes when he corrupts what we are doing, takes us from the liberation process that we are undertaking, from the pursuit of transition to end this family rule and put the country on a democratic path. And the way he does that is fairly well known, co-opting those who are in the struggle, buying them literally and using them against achieving that, which is what he has done with UPC, with the DP, and now we was trying to do with FDC. If Wante or the people he's working with tomorrow decided that, because that's where he was coming, the liberation of this country is not going to be, and the end of that family rule is not going to be affected by any of these political parties. I've told you, political parties, their role, but that their role happens in democratic societies.
Yes.
We don't have a democratic society.
Okay.
So what we are basically undertaking is a liberation to create, that can allow us to create a free society.
Okay.
So if
Lastly,
Wante chose that we all come together, you'll find that what distinguishes us are two things. One, they don't want the unity of all who are fighting. That's why they were saying, I am actually taking FDC to NUP. FDC must work with the NUP, must work with all other parties for liberation.
The second one.
The second one, where you find we differ, they think that honorary elections, which are controlled by the same people, the same family, can liberate the country. We are saying,
yes, sir,
we will need to fight. They don't, and you've heard them condemn me for saying that talking about fighting is katemba, that demonstration. Yes, demonstrations cannot remove the government
because of changes.
So that is where the divisions are.
Okay.
Not this politicking that I don't know. My wife meets Museveni or Salam Musumba's husband. Salam Musumba's husband is actually NRM. Mr. Musumba is an NRM cadre, but Salam is not.
Doctor, thank you.
The chairman under who led them, Sam Unjuba, the late Sam Unjuba, was a perfect, strong leader of the revolution.
Yes, sir.
His wife is a cadre of NRM. So what they are saying is exactly to try and distort information in the eyes.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor, I'm not going to give you a chance to give us a parting shots. The good thing that you're always here on Friday, because it's exactly 2 p.m. Maybe Leo Karo, watching from Lusaka, Zambia. Thank you so much for watching. You said that Dr. Kizza Besigye, welcome back. We learn a lot from your wisdom. So many people continue to thank Dr. Kizza Besigye. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this conversation. I'm happy that you have been watching us from the time we started up to now. I continue to thank you for cutting out these short clips and continuing to promote them on TikTok and other social media platforms. We are internally grateful. Continue doing that. In case you have an interesting point, cut off that particular point and promote it, because we believe We are amplifying voices that are unheard in the community. And we believe by amplifying these voices, your voice counts, but our voice also counts. So continue sharing this feed to as many people as you want. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. This is Digitalk TV. We shall see you again on Friday at exactly 12 p.m. We shall be here with retired Dr. Kizza Besigye from the entire team.
Have a great week.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.